Hi, thanks for joining me. Today's video is about mountain biking in Colorado Springs. My name is Fran and I am president of Springs Choice Welcome Service. And I don't know a thing about mountain biking. So with me today is my friend John, and he is an expert in mountain biking. We are actually in his van right now, which is like the coolest van ever. And we're going to first talk about some of the different types of equipment and things like that that you should know about. Well, the first thing I wanted to ask John was, how long have you been mountain biking, and why is it a passion for you, and what do you like about it so much?
Well, you live in Colorado Springs, you got to get outdoors. So that was, I used to road bike all the time when I was in like junior high school type of thing. And I loved that. Like, I would just go for miles. But when I found mountain biking and I could get up in the mountains and not have to deal with traffic, it changed everything. I never rode bike again. But so that was when I was like 19, I changed over to mountain biking, and so close to 30 years now.
Wow, long time.
Yeah, it's been a good deal. Love it. But Colorado Springs is so mountain bike friendly, so bike friendly, with the amount of trails that we have. Also, just through the city, if you wanted to ride your bike to work, if you don't live really far away from your work, you could do it. They're just bike lanes and trails, and will get you all the way through the city. So it is definitely very bike friendly, mountain bike friendly here in the Springs. So
the thing I wanted to talk about was the types of equipment and things that people might need when they're going to go mountain biking. Do you think it's expensive? And maybe when you talk about some of the equipment, maybe talk about some of the stuff that's really you just gotta have versus like nice to have. And
if you're going to mountain bike, you're going to get a flat tire. That's 100%. You're going to get a flat tire. So you need to know how to change your tire. You need to know how to take your tire off your bike and reinstall it. You need to know how to take the tire off the rim and get to the tube. You need to know how to patch that tube, or just have an extra tube, that you could just replace it. I always have patch kits, and I always have an extra tube, because we were coming down Pikes Peak once and I got a blowout that I couldn't patch, and I didn't have a tube, and it was a situation. So your patch kit should include, obviously, the patches. These are kind of hard to see, but these are pretty good patches. They're just clear. You'll have something like that to kind of scrape right around the hole of the tube. You're gonna want to have these. These will help you take the tire off the rim. And these are super important. They usually come in like sets of 3. So you want at least 3 so you can work your way around the tire. But YouTube how to change a tire. If you don't know how to do it, you have to. Because you could be, a good hour away from your car, get a flat tire, and if you don't know how to do it, you're walking back.
Do you know a good video that we could link in the description?
Or not offhand. I'm sure.
If I can find a good video, I'll link it in the description. That'll give you details on how to change out that tire. And how long does that about take?
Usually, if you're pretty good at it, it'll probably take about 15 minutes.
Okay.
That's
not bad.
Yeah, if you're only replacing the tube, it's even faster,
Wow. Okay.
But usually what I'll do is I'll take it off and I'll look at it, and if it's just a small hole, I'll try to patch it first. Always try to patch it. But I've had like big gashes that you're not going to patch, so you just put a new tube on. The other thing that'll shut you down is if your chain breaks. And that happens quite a bit, especially if your bike's a little bit older, if you're really rough on it, you're riding hard. So you wanna have a toolkit, something like this. It's gonna have like multiple different tools in it, and make it specific for your bike,
And where does someone get those types of toolkits?
These are always going to be at your bike stores.
You'll find them. Bike stores.
But this one is really cool. It has a little chain braking tool. So if one of your links break, you could take that link out and then just skip it and then reinstall the chain. So like the new bikes, you don't really want to try to be a mechanic on them because they're pretty technical. But if something breaks and you look at it, you can say, well, I could fix this real quick, and get yourself back on the road in an emergency. It's good to have these tools. I usually carry like a little bit of like chain oil, just things get dusty, you can go through a mud puddle or whatever, you want to clean stuff off, but just keeps you running. Here's another one. This one actually has the tool to take your tire off your rim as well, with some Allen wrenches and whatnot, some sockets. Very good to have. You definitely want to be able to deal with some emergencies.
And we can put some links down in the description for some of the bike shops here. You said you like Ted's when we were talking
Ted's
before.
bicycle is one of my favorite.
So John has this really cool backpack that we've been taking everything out of, and it's a Camelback. And having a good backpack sounds like it'd be really important. I don't mountain bike, but I know hiking wise it's good to have a good backpack.
I like the ones with the Camelback, like Fran said, because for one, what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll fill it completely full of ice, and then I will fill the rest of it with water, and that way the ice will melt, and you'll still be able to drink the whole day, but you'll have cold water the whole day. And the other trick about that with this in the backpack is you can also put sandwiches or other food that you want to keep cold.
Oh, to keep the sandwiches cold.
Yeah, put it right next to the pack. The one thing you gotta remember is this: if you don't get this shut right, it's gonna leak, and you don't want it to leak all over your stuff.
So, I like the valve at the tip too. Make sure that's closed.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll start dripping on you too if
Yep.
you're not paying attention.
And usually what I'll do because as you're riding, the water in the tube here will get warm. So I'll take a drink and then I'll blow it back into the
is that
pouch.
how you keep the water from getting warm in the tube?
Exactly. I'll blow it back into the thing, so don't drink after me. But that way, if you don't do that, this whole drink is going to be
nasty,
flaming hot. Yeah, so that's usually a trick that I use. Thing very important: a little first aid kit. Band-aids. Ibuprofens. Clean wet wipes. I've had accidents where I've had this and had them where I didn't. I'd rather have it. So there are definitely, bunch of different helmets. You're gonna go on preference, what you like to look at. To me, I like helmets that are gonna have a lot of protection at the back of the head here. So some of them will just kind of run this line here. I like it when they drop out and protect the back of the head as well. So if you're doing kind of just beginner trails, you probably don't need something like that. Just a regular helmet is fine. But when you start doing really technical stuff, you're gonna wreck, and you expect that. So you just want to be prepared for it. And then another step up from that would be like a full face helmet. And it looks a lot like a motorcycle helmet, but it's not. It's a lot lighter. The padding isn't as heavy duty as a motorcycle helmet. The construction isn't quite as heavy. They're designed for mountain bikes. So if you're going to be doing some really big time downhill stuff, I would recommend these too. And you could, use sunglasses or goggles, either or.
Okay.
It's up to you. Here we go.
Yeah.
The one thing, gloves are gonna be your biggest friend too. You're riding all day, you get blisters on your hands, but you fall off and you land in a cactus. I've had gloves on, and I've had that happen without them. It's a lot funner with gloves. If you're really gonna start getting into like the trails, the technical trails, knee pads and shin guards are key. If you take a pedal to your shin, you're going to regret it, I promise. So that and elbow pads, if you're really going to go crazy, and we're in Palmer Park today, And this is one of my all-time favorite places to mountain bike, because you could go
Want
on
to bust out the
beginner.
map?
Yeah, you could go on beginner trails here, and you can have some of the most technical mountain biking that you've ever experienced, and it's right here in
All
the.
in the same,
Yeah,
from the same park.
absolutely.
It's really cool.
And it's right here in the middle of our city, and so I mean, most people could just ride their bike right here, ride the trails, and ride right home, and if not, it's like 10-15 minute drive in the car. But we have there's maps here. I got this one at the bike store, and it's specifically for Palmer Park, and it'll show you like how many trails actually are in Palmer Park, but it also give you the difficulty level, and that's important. You wanna ride at your expertise. If you're a beginner, own it. Just ride and get better. If you're gonna go as a beginner on a really tough trail, you're gonna walk your bike a lot, and that ends up not being a lot of fun either. So just build up a little bit at a time, and also there's tons of different maps. I got this one here, and they just gave me that one free at the bike store. So but I have books, like mountain biking books. There's a couple of different types, of this whole area, but they'll give you how to drive to the trailhead. It'll give you the difficulty of the trail. It'll tell you which way you're going. So also maybe even having like a small compass, an accurate compass, might help you to read the maps, if you know how to do it.
John's got some like amazing treats to share.
The other thing is gas. You're the engine on that bike. You need gas in the engine. So usually, like if I'm going to do a really long trip, it starts the night before. Have a really good dinner, carb up. I like to carb up a lot. Have a nice breakfast the morning of, but also have snacks, because you're gonna gas out, and it's no fun when you're miles away from your car and you're just dead. So you get these at the bike store too, or like REI. They're good hiking food, but like just like lightweight, gives you good energy. These are gummies, just things like this, waffles, stuff that just gives you a quick boost. These are really good. It's like a gel. They're easy to do. You just soak it down, and the thing that'll just give you a quick boost. You could sit down, enjoy the view, have a quick bite to eat, and get back to work.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention how I know John. So John and I go way back. We used to train together, I don't know, 20 years ago. That was forever ago. I don't know, a long time ago. So we used to train together in Universal Kempo Karate. We were at the West Side branch. And so shout out to Professor Levitt. So I know that he knows how to handle himself. He was actually somebody that trained me, so I know he can handle himself. But
and you can too.
I
Don't
can't.
mess with Fran.
Don't
mess with Fran.
But what other types of things can people do for personal safety? Just obviously be vigilant.
Yeah.
Watch your surroundings.
That's the number one thing that you can do is be aware of your surroundings, because things do happen, and if you go by yourself, and if you're even if you're a woman, things can get pretty hairy, and you're just out in the middle of nowhere. You're gonna have to defend yourself, and I'm always about carrying a gun. If you can do it, it's more weight, but it makes me feel better too. And it's not only that, but you're gonna encounter bears here, mountain lions, bobcats, coyote. There's a lot of wildlife, and I don't recommend just shooting wildlife, but if you're in a situation, it's good to be able to defend yourself and take care of it like that. But I think the biggest thing is just being aware, making lots of noise on the trail. You're on a mountain bike, you're coming around corners really fast. You could surprise a bear, and be in a bad situation. So
finding trailheads sometimes is hard. So these books that John shared with you are really good for that. But then how do you actually get your bike to those trailheads? And sometimes, like he said, you're just leaving from your house, right? I mean, that's how bike friendly it is here. But sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're bringing your bike via vehicle. And so, John, what do you think are some good ways that people can get their bike to a trailhead by their vehicle?
Well, in the van, like you can see, I just kind of shoved it in the back here, but there, I mean, there's tons of racks. You know, the ones that sit on top of your car,
Tops of the cars.
the tops of the car. You mentioned that you have one
That goes on the hitch on the
yeah,
back. Yeah.
right. Those are really good too, because obviously I'm just by myself today, so you know. But if you're gonna have a bunch of people, you want to give them room to sit. So an outdoor or an outside, I'm sorry, bike rack is going to be, you know, ideal. So yeah, go, you know, depending on your car, you know, you just go down to the bike store and whatever works best with your car or van or truck.
Before we go outside and talk about the bikes themselves a little bit, is there any sort of like social media groups, like are there like bike groups and things like that you think people should know about?
You know, on personally, I don't know of any that I use, but I have seen, you know, tons of, you know, groups, and it is preferred, you know, recommended that you ride with somebody because, you know, it is dangerous. And I mean, you could wreck and break your wrist and not be able to ride home, you know, or your ankle and not be able to walk home and be stuck. You know, having somebody there that could go get help, or you know, that knows you're there, knows right where you're at, is pretty pivotal. You know, it's good to have.
I know I would feel a lot more secure being on the trail. So do you
Yeah.
know people that are like, oh, let me go over here even though it's not technically part of the trail anymore? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
My biggest thing, and courtesy wise, is stay on the trail. You know, a lot of people will see a good obstacle and want to go jump
Right.
it or
Imagine.
stay on the trail. You don't want to go and trample down all this vegetation so you can have like a little jump or whatever. Stay on the trail. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is really important. Even like when the trail's going and you might see it spaghetti off here a little bit, try to stay on the main part of the trail. Other thing is, it's not very good to go riding like if it's been raining for like 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
You know, when the
Slippery?
trails are really muddy,
Muddy.
and because you do a lot of damage to the trail in that situation. You know, you're putting big ruts in the trail and that kind of thing. So it's better to stay off the trails if they're really wet. You know, if you're out and it's raining, you know, it starts raining on you, there's nothing you can do. But if you could plan around, you know, riding on a really wet trail, it's better for us.
Maybe a little quick poncho in the backpack might be a good idea too.
Absolutely. I have them as well, just like a cheap dollar poncho. Good to have. You know, I've been caught in the rain thousands of times, you know, and it's, you know,
Here in Car Springs,
yeah,
no way.
I know, it's crazy, but like sometimes it's fun though. You like once you're soaking wet, there's nothing worse that can happen. You can't get any wetter, so just go with it.
You put the poncho like over your backpack
yeah,
too, right?
Yeah,
To
they'll
protect-
usually
I
fit
think-
over the whole thing.
Yeah, because when I hike, if that happens, I'm always worried about the contents that I
Right.
have in my backpack, because I usually have a phone or a camera or something,
Right.
and I'm like, that's gonna get wet. So the poncho is used more for my supplies than
Yeah,
for myself
absolutely.
in a lot of ways.
It's really hard to predict the weather here. You know, the weather comes in, it hits Pikes Peak, and there's no telling what it'll do. You know, so just kind of have a good idea of what weather you're going out in so you can expect it, you know. Who yields to who? Because on these trails, you're going to come in contact with other mountain bikers, with hikers, and even possibly horses, you know. So you got to know who yields to who. And mountain bikers yields to everybody. Mountain bikers yield to hikers and horses, and hikers yield to the horses. So remember that. And then also, if you're going downhill on a mountain bike, you want to yield to the uphill biker, okay? Because you got gravity, and it's a lot easier for you to ride. you want to let that uphill biker go through. Get off your bike. If you can't both stay on your bike, get off, step off the trail, let them go through. It's courteous.
If you're new to Colorado Springs, you might be new to mountain biking altogether. And, that's kind of more what this video is geared for today. So, all right, now we'll see you outside. All right, guys, we are outside here at Palmer Park, and I have another video where I kind of share this view with you. But this time the sky is more clear. We had those fires, and it was a little hazier than it is now. So this is at the Grand Outlook. All right, John, you want to tell people about tires, or what about the bike should they be looking for when they go bike shopping?
That is the big question right there, because there's so many factors, like budget, is obviously the biggest factor, but also what you're gonna do. Like if you're just gonna go ride with your kids on some, fun, even track, you don't have to go spend $3,000 on a bike, but if you're gonna go do, really technical stuff, and really want to get into hardcore riding, you're not going to be able to do that with a $100 bike from Walmart. So you really got to be honest with yourself and what your goals are going to be with mountain biking. So there's going to be probably 3 major categories of mountain bikes. One is going to be where the front fork is just locked. There's no shock here. The back end is going to be solid, no shock there. That would be like mainly for the type of trail riding with your kids. Something that you're going to find maybe at Walmart or whatnot. And then the next step up from that is what they would call a hardtail, which means they're going to have a shock. The front fork is going to have a shock, but the back part is not going to have a shock.
Oh.
So you're only going to have, your shocks in the front. Now this is what the third category would be, a full suspension, where you're going to have your shocks in the front, but also in the back too. So if you're going to get into really, like really hardcore downhilling, you're going to want a full suspension bike. So the other thing is tires. You want a good, dirt mountain bike tire, and you want to be able to keep the pressure in the tire, keep them really hard. I like them really hard. So I was going to tell you about my pump, but I forgot and I took it off the bike last night. The pump, you can have your patches and your tools to take the tires off and everything and know how to do it, but if you don't have a pump, you're still dead in the water. So the pump is not where you want to skimp. Get a good pump. You want something that'll be able to inflate your tires properly. Make sure when you buy your air pump, you know what type of valve you have, because if you have the wrong pump, you're still dead in the water.
Ooh.
So very important, know the type of valve you have before you buy a pump. The 2 type of pedals, like here is what you're going to call a platform pedal, and these are the ones I like to ride with. When I'm doing really technical stuff, I like to be able to put my foot down really quick and kind of kick off a rock and not be locked into the bike. So here, these are more of a, if I want to go out and put a bunch of miles on, I love these pedals because you have a shoe here, and it's got this little bracket here on the bottom of the shoe that actually locks into the pedal. So you just step down and clamp it, and then you're locked to that pedal pretty easy. And it's easy to break loose. You just have to turn your foot to the side and you'll break right out of it. Again, when I'm doing really technical stuff, I like to be able to make fast moves and step off the bike, so I like the platforms better. But the advantage of it being locked into your pedal is not only is one foot pushing down, but the other one is also pulling up at the same time. With the platforms, it's only one foot pushing down at a time. So being able to get that up, that up pull with the pedals gives you a lot more power, and you know, ends up where you're not as tired. You could do a lot more riding and not get tired. I have friends that'll ride with those pedals on the most technical stuff, and they like it. They swear by it. I'm just not. I don't like being locked into the bike like that. It's really cool. They're bike computers. They mount here on the handlebar. There's a little sensor here, you know, and it has the magnet that just goes around, and every time it goes past this little sensor, it'll tell you how fast you're going.
Oh.
It'll tell you how many miles. You could set a trip, you know, and it'll tell you how many miles you've gone. It'll give you an odometer of how many miles you've put on that computer total. You know, it'll give you an average speed, a max speed, and they're kind of, you know, it's good information to have. And they're about $30, so it's worth.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
that bad.
to have all that information, it's worth having for sure.
All right, guys, we're about to get on the trail, but we just remembered it. Maybe we should mention the seats. So go ahead, John.
Yep.
Tell us about paddings and seats and.
Miss Fran here, she's got a really soft padded seat.
Oh yeah.
Which is nice. And saddle sore is a thing. And if you go out on a bike for like a couple hours, and especially if you haven't done it in a long time, you're gonna get saddle sore. Especially with the guy seats. They're harder.
Look at this thing.
They're really small. So I highly recommend
look at this
getting
thing. Cushy. With a hole.
Yep. So I highly recommend getting shorts with a pad in them. You know,
All right, and that's what you're wearing today?
Yep, mountain bike pad or mountain short. They have the spandex ones. I don't really like those. I like more of the mountain bike type short. Big pockets, but it has a pad, so I can spend a couple hours in the saddle and not really have to worry about it. So another thing to think about.
That's a nice tip. And did we want to talk quickly about that quick release
that
we were talking about with the front tires?
Yeah, so again, you need to know your bike and how to change your tire. So taking it off, you could see here there's a quick release right here, and super easy to take off. But on some bikes, there's going to be a nut here, and you're going to want to have a tool to take that nut off if that's the kind you have, and have that in your backpack, because you need to be able to take your tire off to change it, to fix the tube and whatnot. And again, like I said, if you mountain bike here in Colorado, you're gonna get a flat tire. There's cactus, there's sharp rocks, just everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is out to get you. So just be prepared.
All right, guys, on that note, we're off. All right, I had a chain issue, but John helped me, and we're about to try this again and get back on the trail.
There's a quick, in Palmer Park, they kind of do like ski resort. Green being the easiest, blue medium, and black hard. So, and you'll have trail markers.
Oh, there's a marker. Let's go check that out.
So there's a little marker here. They'll show you we're on a green trail, pretty easy. There's this one over here behind us. You can't see it right now, but that one's
blue.
A blue, and it'll go down some pretty good fun downhill
wow.
down there.
Let's see if I can I show you guys without going down there? It looks bad. You can't, this camera isn't doing it justice. Oh, this is not bad through here at all. Oh boy. Oh God.